and I want to bring up uh, stuff before and then after uh, A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back. Because when you're watching the Kenobi series, and at the end, the Emperor basically says, who's your master, me or Obi-Wan? Now, I have an idea on this. Anakin is attached to his past. Okay? He always wanted to beat Obi-Wan to prove he was the better Jedi, better swordsman, whatever. And what you see in episode 5 isn't necessarily flashbacks. What you see is what is going on in the present. See, Kenobi's presence in his life brings Anakin out. Okay? Hey, just some other guy. It brings Anakin into focus. Okay? This is not Vader. This is Anakin, who's, basically, Obi-Wan says, no, he'll follow me. No, he'll attack. That's what he does. He doesn't have any patience for a siege. Okay, that is Anakin and Vader. But if you add Obi-Wan or somebody that Vader was attached to as Anakin, Anakin will come out of in him. Okay, which is why when Vader says, follow Kenobi, the Inquisitor is like, knowing it was the wrong thing to do. The Emperor calls him out at the end. Not only does Vader, Anakin, get embarrassed by his old master, got his ass kicked, but then he has to explain it and reaffirm his affiliation with his new master, the Emperor. Okay. What I think with Anakin Skywalker is when he's faced with somebody he knew, somebody he loved. If Master Qui-Gon was still alive, okay, okay. What I believe is that part of him that loved them, that part of him that was attached to them, that part of him that had frustrations with them, like Obi-Wan, will come out. If Qui-Gon was alive, you'd see this probably the same things maybe, or Yoda around, the same desire to win, to prove himself, to be aggressive. And when you meet Vader after, like in Rogue One, he's different. He's kind of gotten past it. Okay, he's basically, knows Obi-Wan is out there somewhere. Maybe he's dead. We don't know, but it doesn't matter anymore. Okay, the Emperor basically said it. He doesn't matter. Okay, and this is an FYI. Mr. Shithead here, the dog, decided it would be fun to eat something disgusting out in the yard, which I haven't figured out what he ate. Around 1 o'clock in the morning, he decides to have running diarrhea all over the bedroom and the catwalk. Hey, Joe. And I didn't sleep. I woke up and it just stunk. I mean, it was a stink you can't believe. And he, get out of there, Kojak. Took him outside and he had the runs, like he was in and out of the house 4 or 5 times. And it was raining and it was horrible. He's finally better now. He had a couple of traits, but I'm taking him to the vet. So I'm going to kind of make this short. Anyway, back to Anakin. So when we get to A New Hope, Vader has kind of put Obi-Wan behind him until he goes to the Falcon and feels his presence. Okay. All right, now we know, not since whatever that planet was they fought on. Okay. where he kicked my ass. Okay. Um, and then Tarkin goes, "Your old master, surely he should be dead by now." How does Tarkin know? You know, hey, Latino slant. These are some of the things that I hope someone explains to me. Um, since I refuse to read the comic books, considering the people that write any of the publications from Lucasfilm are the true scumbags of this whole fiasco, the story group. So I refuse to have anything to do with them or anything. Okay. Um, so we get to see Vader at peak. He is now, in a sense, truly Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, for all intents and purposes, because there's nothing out there to remind him of his past, of what he was attached to, who he was attached to. Obi-Wan's disappeared, presumably dead. Vader doesn't know he has children, which I'm going to point out is the bigger thing. Big, huge. So when he does realize Obi-Wan is on the Death Star and they fight, Obi-Wan doesn't necessarily fight him. He sacrifices himself to get Luke out of there, and Leia and Han, and Chewbacca and the droids. In The Empire Strikes Back, we learn that Vader's looking for Skywalker. Emperor talks of Luke and Anakin Skywalker not in a third person. He doesn't, when he talks to Vader in the hologram, he doesn't necessarily talk to him as your son. Okay? He doesn't refer to Luke as your son, the son of Skywalker, you know. And so the Emperor, in lots of ways, and probably doesn't really, but we're going to assume just for this that the Emperor knows or feels that Vader is now Vader, and there's no reason to think that the good side, the Anakin Skywalker, will ever return in any way, shape, or form. But we find out later that Vader found out, I think through Boba Fett. What did you just eat? You know, lay down. If you get sick again, I'll kill you. We find out that Vader, through Boba Fett or some way, found out that Luke Skywalker existed. There were no other Skywalkers in the universe but Anakin. So where the two and two together makes four. Guess what? Padme did have a child. He has yet to find out he has a daughter too, a twin daughter. And so this raises the attachment to Padme. Now apparently Vader, underneath the castle at Mustafar or somewhere, was trying to use alchemy to raise Padme from the grave. It's like, dude, that's kind of gross. That's kind of, you don't know. No. Ugh. But if anybody could have fixed what was broken in him, it was Padme. Could have gotten him to see through his blind rage and anger and stopped him from becoming a Sith Lord. Because she was Padme, his whole focus. He was focused squarely on her. As Tom Conkle said, he has a tunnel vision about victory, about what he's passionate about what he's reason, what he wants to win, what he wants to gain, who he wants to defeat. Therein lies why he got defeated by Kenobi And at the end, in episode 6, okay? Because he's so focused on Kenobi that he forgot the more important thing. The more important thing was to say, fuck you, Ben, I'll find you somewhere other time. And it's really interesting to me when I watched that, and I thought, you know what? He's his attachments to people in his past, in his life, are his undoing, for good or evil. This is what weakens him. So he finds out he has a son. He wants to find his son. And it's that whole attachment to Padme. I have something that she left that is ours together. And when he faces Luke in The Empire Strikes Back, now for you newbies, if you're here, you're going to hear a theory of mine, but I think I'm right. It goes along with the theory I have in Revenge of the Sith when Anakin is holding Dooku's and his own, hey Dave, his own lightsaber in his hands, and Dooku's sitting there going, he's holding the balance of the Force in his hands, literally as the chosen one, okay? And if you ever watch Clone Wars, you'll get you'll get another idea of that from the Mortis arc, but we won't talk about that. So anyway, you get to Empire Strikes Back, and we now know that he knew Luke was his son. Well, we're going to assume that the Emperor knew too, in a way, but he refers to Anakin in the third person because Anakin, for all intents and purposes, is dead. Okay, he's gone. But here's the problem. Luke shows up mistakenly to try to save Han and Leia and fails miserably. He's getting his ass kicked. Okay? Vader finally says, Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. Luke says, he told me enough. He told me you killed him. Vader says, no, I am your father. The moment he says it out loud to Luke, Anakin Skywalker is back in some form or another. It's not the slow kind of creeping that people thought, or not some automatic turn. This is where it starts, because then he said it out loud. I am Anakin Skywalker. I am your father. Hey, Big Al. And in my opinion, the reason why I think that is at the very end, when you see the Falcon struggling at sublight speed, and you got R2 frantically trying to fix the hyperdrive and turn it back on, and Vader calling out to Luke, and Luke calling out, son, no, Luke, father. And then he said, Ben, why didn't you tell me? And they're going back and forth, and all of a sudden the Falcon's gone. Gone. Hyperspace, gone. For parts unknown. Now, let's go back in The Empire Strikes Back. Every time something like that happened, somebody got force choked to death. Admiral Ozzel. You know, Captain Nita. Okay. Others. All right. Here's the deal. You got Admiral Piet going, oh shit, he's going to kill me. Vader turns around, hands behind his back, and walks away. Vader, an hour and a half before that, would have killed everybody on the bridge for losing Skywalker, right? But, yeah, I said Admiral Ozzel. But, I don't know what you're talking about, Lawrence, but Admiral Piet was sitting right there and looking up at him with this fearful look on his face. Vader walks away. that was Anakin Skywalker. Okay, that's when you realize something had changed. Okay, and what brought out the change, to make it obvious, was he said, he was basically admitted, I am Anakin Skywalker to Luke. Okay, now, what does the Emperor do? I don't know what you're talking about, Lawrence, because you're not talking about the end of Empire Strikes Back. When the Falcon takes off, they're all in the same fucking room. Are you listening to me? So the Emperor in Return of the Jedi, I think, can feel the resolve leaving and the basically the grip of the dark side getting not as strong on Vader as it used to be. When you think about it, why does he want to find Luke? You know, many theories out there. Does he want to use Luke as his apprentice and kill? I know that, but you guys don't understand what I'm saying. You could have said that about Admiral Ozzel. You could have said that about Nita. All right? You still killed him. Piet, before, would have been cannon fodder. The Falcon's gone. It's your fault. You're dead. You failed me. Okay? That was Anakin Skywalker. It was not Vader. Vader would not have let what he considered a mistake and a failure to go without punishment. Okay? That's what I'm saying. All right? You have to look and see what happens. The moment he says, I am your father, everything changes. Okay? He changes. And the Emperor knows this. So when you see him land on the Death Star, and he says, now I feel you want to continue searching for your son. The Emperor is looking at Vader. I mean, the guy is in a life support suit. He's not in the best of health, in my opinion. And he's sick. I mean, think about that whole containment unit he walks around in. And he's weakening. All right, the Emperor wants a new apprentice. So there's one ready-made, Luke Skywalker. And to me, what the Emperor doesn't realize is that the idea of Padmé is the thing that makes Luke Luke. Okay? It's her ability to see through the bullshit with Anakin. Okay? And her ability to see Vader as worth redeeming, his father. And that, Padmé Amidala, I think, is probably the one person that the Emperor could never defeat, because she was the whole focus of Anakin Skywalker. Okay, so try to use that boy against Vader was eventually going to go wrong, because Luke's inherent compassion, his empathy, and his ideas of right and wrong, which he inherited from his mother, are there, and and that's what makes Luke the Jedi that he is. Because Anakin is a shit. He's a prideful, arrogant, conceited little shit. Okay? He's a fantastic duelist. He's very strong in the Force as a young Jedi. But his hubris and his pride is astronomical. Okay? And like when you're watching the duel in episode 5 of Kenobi, that's not necessarily a flashback. Okay? Because they didn't de-age Hayden. at all, to me, in my opinion. He didn't look like he did in before the at the beginning of the Clone Wars. Okay, you're looking at who Anakin is at the present, because he's still very present in Vader. Darth Vader, the one that we knew, wouldn't have wasted his time chasing him around. All right. And when he realized what a futile thing it was, he just said, screw it, I'm not going to do it anymore. If we run into each other and I have the opportunity, I'll kill him, but this is not my mission. Okay. But Anakin Skywalker seems to raise his head anytime Kenobi's around, and then he appears again with Luke. And the reason why is Anakin, his everything that he was is always going to be firmly attached to what he loved and what he lost. The family he should have had. The woman whose heart he broke and died from it. His best friend, his old master, his father figure, his brother. Okay? All of it is what makes Anakin Skywalker such a compelling figure and character. Like, when you meet him, he's this goofy little boy who's got abilities in building things, and, you know, Qui-Gon realizes that he can raise pods, which is not a human thing. Our reflexes can't do it. Only Jedi can. And after he figures out where the kid came from, he realizes he could be the chosen one. Okay. This is where it starts out, but Anakin is a slave boy. He's not secure in himself. He wasn't raised in a free place. His mother was a slave. I mean, at the lowest of the low, okay? The lowest of the low. I always look at Tatooine as being like Nazareth. Nothing good can come from Tatooine. Or whatever good has come from Tatooine. It's the same thing when you look at the Bible, where Jesus lived and worked before he went on his mission. What good ever came out of Nazareth? This backwater Galilean town, poor. Think about it. The last place you'd ever look for greatness, and there it is. Okay. And it's very interesting to me how Lucas sort of used Anakin's insecurities about where he came from and who he was, and manifested them in his overarching ego and hubris about his abilities. Obi-Wan desperately tries to teach him humility and patience, that there are other ways to defeat the enemy, and he never, ever, ever learns it until episode 6 of Kenobi. Okay? And I almost like when he said, "You didn't fail, I killed him." When Vader, Anakin says that to Kenobi, as a lie. Because if he's present there, well, Carlos, I agree with you. And I don't know if he is broken, but he's very insecure. He doesn't accept himself. Other people are afraid of him. They don't accept him. Mace Windu outright hates him. Okay. And the reason why is because he's too powerful. And they don't know what to do with that. They absolutely do not know what to do with it. Okay. So when you're watching all this, and you're watching him not really, even in Clone Wars, I think what he wanted to be was what they wanted. and he didn't know how to put those two things together. And I think that was the problem. He's when you're watching him, and he goes, "Follow Kenobi." It's like that's thank you. Um, that's Anakin. That is Anakin uh, doing the wrong thing. Like, if you remember Attack of the Clones, when Padmé falls out of the transport, Anakin tries to jump out to rescue her, and Obi-Wan has to stop and say, "No, we're pursuing Dooku. Okay, Dooku. She'll be fine. Let it go." And he was pissed. I mean, he was pissed, right? So we've got, I mean, we see him saying he doesn't understand me, la-di-da, to yeah, and he did. He did, and what he saw he didn't like. Again, that feeds into his insecurity and the armor that the hubris and the massive ego and pride became, okay? And it, when he was a youngling at the Jedi Temple, and he's basically, doing things that the other kids who'd been there longer couldn't do, all right? That would make him special. And when you're a kid, you don't want to stick out, because then people notice you and they start picking on you. Okay, problem, right? Massive problem. But in the end, when Vader is confronted with having to fight his son, and of course he goes into it wholeheartedly, but Luke, who could have killed him, took his hand. Like the second time Vader lost a hand. Luke basically does what Padmé would have done. His compassion and his empathy and his optimism at that point basically overcomes everything. His anger at Leia being threatened. Okay. And Vader is spared, and then Vader, Anakin, has to make a decision. This is my son. The Emperor's trying to kill him, and something needs to be done. I'm the only one who can do it. And he sacrifices himself in the end for the son he had with the woman he loved. Okay? Because again, he can sit there and say to the Emperor, "Oh, I don't care about the past anymore. Whatever Anakin Skywalker did." Yeah. And you're right on there. Carlos is right. And I don't understand the bitching and moaning and the crying and the whining and the bullshit that people are going through. I mean, I don't give a flying rat's ass if you're a filmmaker. I don't care. But if you can't see how well this turned out. Did you guys hear him? Yeah. Senor Poopy Pants. If you can't see how well this turned out, I can't help you. Okay? I can't, and I won't. The reason why I won't is because it's not worth my time. People, it's like this. I was a prequel hater until I saw the sequels. And they were awful. They were fucking awful. They were so awful, in fact, there's no description for them. I hate them worse than everybody in the chat combined right now, okay? I went back, I had the flu, and I started watching the prequels. And I gained a whole new appreciation for what George built. Okay? There was no reason to destroy Luke and Han and Leia. And all it was J.J. Abrams not giving a fuck about the show, not giving a fuck about Star Wars, apathetically going through the motions. Rian Johnson intentionally shitting on Luke Skywalker, not giving any closure for anybody over Han, except for those stupid fucking dice that nobody ever noticed that they pulled out of their asses and say, here, the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? And then, all the nonsensical characters that didn't belong. Like Haldo. Again, when I watch that, when I haven't watched it since I've only seen Last Jedi once. Okay, and I think every copy of it should be set on fire. I think Disney should take the entire sequel trilogy off and just get rid of it. Like it didn't happen. Bad dream, didn't happen. These aren't the movies you're looking for. These aren't the movies we're looking for. Do a Jedi mind trick, but get it the shit out of here. And I've always said this. It shows how much the author or the creator cared about what they were doing by the effort they put into it. Okay. J.J. Abrams had no fucks to give about Star Wars. I wouldn't just, by the way, the entire sequel trilogy. All right, the entire sequel trilogy. All right, okay, not just TLJ. I'm sick and tired of seeing everybody fixate. You're like Anakin Skywalker, you guys. You fixate on one little thing. The entire fucking thing was trash. And everybody knows it. I walked out of TFA. And I walked out of TFA and I was like, no one was saying anything. No one. No one said a word. It was literally the quietest crowd I've ever seen in my life. Walked out of TLJ. Oh, hi, Doug. And everyone was like, it was silent, but there was angry murmuring. There were people, I had to use the lavatory, right? I'm in there washing my hands. There were women behind me going, this is the worst movie I've ever seen in my whole life. Going off. Okay? Well, it wasn't really, and I think his attachment was to his duty to protect the kids. Oh, I think you're right. I think they didn't want to use any of his stuff because they would have had to pay him money. And Bob Iger is one of the cheapest people on the planet. Okay, they could have made George's trilogy or a type of it without anything. And I'm going to tell you something. There are people out there that screamed and ranted and shouted and would stamp their feet if they thought George was part of it because they're prequel haters. Okay, and a lot of them hate Kenobi because they're prequel haters, okay? And you can't get these morons, and they're mouth-breathing morons. Most of them, look, I don't care if you made movies, but if you honestly do not get this show. Now I'm going to say, yeah, there were some weak points. I'm not a fan of the Reva character. She doesn't need a show. Trust me, if they make a show about her, there will be a war. And I think the only reason why that rumor even came out is because of people who wanted to start a fight with the fans. Wow, great idea. We can start a fight with the fans over this now. And every time they complain, we can call them racists. And it'll validate us. That's where this came from. Okay. No one wants a show about Reva. I think it's stupid. If she shows up in a cameo now and then, that's fine. Okay. But she's like an Asajj Ventress. She doesn't need her own show. Okay. Just like they don't need to make a Little Leia show. And there's an MSN article out there, interview with Kennedy. And she was like, we'll certainly think about it if there's any energy for a season 2 for Kenobi. And I'm like, no. And the reason why I'm saying no is the story is over. What are you going to do now? All right, leave him on Tatooine to learn the things that Qui-Gon Jinn needs to teach him. Okay, let him stay there. Vader's not going to go looking for him. He taught him one last lesson. You are an impatient little shit. And I'm going to show you why. And Vader ran, screaming there, but he had his tail between his legs. And the Emperor then, the subtext of what the Emperor was saying was, you stupid ass. You wasted all that time, got yourself banged up over that one old man because you're still pissed at him? Who's your master? All right? Because, again, Anakin's weakness isn't necessarily because he's weak in the Force or physically weak. It's his hubris. It's his need to prove to Obi-Wan that he was the better duelist. And as far as I could tell, every time they sham fought, Obi-Wan beat him because Obi-Wan was wiser and he did. Anakin is pure aggression, pure energy. And as Obi-Wan says in episode 5, there are different ways, there are other ways of fighting. All right. That little battle, that so-called flashback, that was not a flashback. That was what was actually going on because Anakin is present. Okay? Anakin is present. He struts into those rooms like, I finally get to show the master I'm number one. Okay? All right. Let's see ya. He's gone. He outsmarted you again. And then you see Vader do the same thing without a lightsaber to Reva. Yeah, he was a spoiled, arrogant, petulant little shit. But anyway, I gotta go because dear dog, whom you heard groan, needs to go to the vet. So I got a lot of things to do to get this guy ready. So I will see you guys around the galaxy. Been a real fun 40 minutes talking to y'all. Y'all have a good afternoon, have a good evening, and I'll see you around the galaxy.